Now, usually at this time of year, the strum of guitars will be ringing out across the streets of Tamworth in northwest New South Wales, but sadly, not this year.
The 49th Annual Country Music Festival isn't going ahead because of the pandemic, but an unofficial festival of sorts is taking place. Our boot scooting reporter, Caitlin Furlong, joins us now from Tamworth. Good morning, Caitlin. What's the mood like in town this week?
Well, good morning, Lisa. There has been some boot scooting, but probably not as much as usual. It actually feels a bit strange to be in Tamworth this week. Of course, normally at this time of year, there'd be hundreds of gigs happening, around 40,000 visitors in town, and it would be an absolute metropolis of country music. But to be honest, it just feels like an ordinary week. There have been a few gigs happening around town. Some musicians have come up and put on a show, but they're also happening under very different conditions as well. Normally it'd be a writhing mess of sweaty bodies at all the pubs, but this time they're seated, ticketed gigs. Yeah. Everyone's, of course, checking in, QR codes, and at some of the bigger events at the entertainment centre, people are also wearing masks, and those shows like the McClymonts, which I think you can see now, would normally be packed. Of course, they can't be, and that's got an economic flow-on effect for the town too, of course. I've spoken to several business owners. There's been quite a mixed reaction from them about how this will impact them. Some people say they can survive. Others have taken a bit of a blow, and the real concern is what will happen into February when the businesses that normally would get their money from the festival don't have it to spend and don't spend it on other businesses and services in town. So there's certainly some concern about how we'll cope into the next few months as a result of this not quite festival that's happening this year.
Are there still Golden Guitar Awards though?
Yes, there are, and that's probably the big saving grace for this week. They're going ahead tomorrow night. It's going to be a fantastic evening, of course. Now, we have some great nominees. The McClymonts are nominated for a total of 6 awards, and I think there's a very good chance they'll pick up 1 or 2. And, of course, Fanny Lumsden as well, nominated for 7 awards. She's also a hot contender, of course, and there's some interesting names as well. Tommy Emmanuel, obviously the greatest guitarist in the world, in my opinion, is also nominated for a collab with Christy Cox called Finger Pickin' Good, and Lee Kernaghan's also nominated for Vocal Collab of the Year. So it's certainly still going to be country music's night of nights tomorrow here in Tamworth.
Now, how are they doing it though without the crowds? How are they running the awards?
Yeah, well, normally 5,000 people come to the Tamworth Regional Entertainment Centre to watch the awards and, of course, line the red carpet to see their favourite country music stars. The red carpet will only be happening in private. There won't be an audience, and only limited media are able to attend. Fortunately, the ABC will be there, of course. People will have to wear masks while they're inside the venue, and yes, just 500 people will be allowed to attend. Instead of packing everyone into the entertainment centre, it's more a cabaret-style setting at tables, again, keeping people seated, keeping people safe. So very interesting times, but I'm sure it'll still be a great show.
Oh, Caitlin, thanks very much. I know you love the Country Music Festival. I think you even boot scooted for us on the program last year, so thank you for telling us what's planned this week at least.
A 62-year-old man has died after being charged by a bull at a rodeo in Tamworth. Organisers have described it as a freak accident. Stockman Bruce Green was declared dead at the local hospital.
A much-loved diamond in the rough. That's how friends describe Bruce Green.
He was just what I would call a bushman with a great sense of, Australian character about him. He was extremely cheeky.
The 62-year-old was a yardsman in the rodeo roundup at Tamworth. He was critically injured after being charged by a bull. Paramedics treated him at the scene, but he later died in the Tamworth hospital.
Bruce was one of those larger-than-life characters that communities have, and his passion was rodeo, working with the community to ensure that our annual rodeo was a huge success.
In a statement, rodeo organisers said they were shocked and saddened. Greenie has always been there, always part of the rodeo, a great bloke, generous in every way.
The rodeo is one of Tamworth's largest events. It usually follows the Country Music Festival and caps off a huge week for the town.
With Bruce, if there was any way to go, this would be the way, because he was doing absolutely what he loved doing.
A report is being prepared for the coroner. Caitlin Furlong, ABC News, Tamworth.
A state funeral has been held in northern New South Wales for one of the pioneers of the Aboriginal land rights movement. Uncle Lyle Monro Sr. was a civil rights activist and joined the Freedom Rides in 1965 to raise awareness about racial segregation in rural towns. He was 89. This story from Caitlin Furlong contains images of Aboriginal people who have died.
With no money, bare feet in a small town.
They came to farewell a man who dedicated his life to the fight for equality. Lyle Monro Sr. was remembered as a warrior, an activist, an elder, father and grandfather.
Genocide means destruction of culture, and that's what Lyle fought against all these years.
There'll always be a Monro in the front line of the struggle. There'll always be a Monro in the contentious issues affecting the lives of Aboriginal people.
Uncle Lyle, as he was affectionately known, was born into a world of racial segregation and went on to set up the New South Wales Aboriginal Legal Service and became a leading advocate for land rights.
Lyle Sr. worked closely with 3 Prime Ministers and in the mid-60s had been very proactive with the famous Freedom Rides with his lifelong friend and associate, Mr Charlie Perkins.
His role in overturning the ban on Aboriginal children entering the swimming pool in his hometown of Moree is legendary.
This was about so much more than kids of different colours being allowed to play together. It marked a watershed moment in local and national race relations.
And the lessons he taught his offspring are also part of his legacy.
Thank you, Fafi, for teaching me to pick the battles, because they're not all worth it.
He's gone, but the fight hasn't. Help us keep that fight going.
What do we want?
I'd just like to say, may you forever rest in peace, Uncle Lyle Monro.
Now to an unfolding tragedy at Gunnedah in northern New South Wales, where a 10-year-old girl has been found dead at a property. A warning, this report does contain some graphic details. Our reporter Caitlin Furlong joins us now. Caitlin, what more can you tell us?
Well, good evening, Jeremy. We know that emergency services were called to the scene about 10 minutes drive from Gunnedah at about 7:15 this morning. When they arrived, they found a 10-year-old girl with severe lacerations, and police sources say her throat had been cut and her body mutilated. Now, a 14-year-old girl was arrested a short time later and taken here to Gunnedah Police Station, where we believe she's still in custody tonight. The ABC understands the 2 girls were cousins. Now, the news has understandably shocked this community. The council has issued a statement saying they're very saddened by the news and they'll be doing all they can to support the family and the community through this incredibly tragic time. Jeremy.
Caitlin Furlong, thank you.